Back in early October, I made a video about Kagurabachi, one of the most widely memed on series in a hot minute. When Mugi and I wrote that video, there was only about like 3 or 4 chapters out, but what started as a complete joke very much turned into a case of curiosity, and I was left with a couple questions. Was the internet too quick to judge it, as it often can be? And most importantly, was Kagurabachi actually good? So, let's start from the beginning. When we were first introduced to Chihiro in September, all anyone could really do was fixate on how edgy he was, which was pretty easy to do given the narrative everyone was pushing. Kagurabachi was an edgy, unoriginal ripoff and was basically treated as the Morbius of manga. It was more about how quickly someone could turn it into a joke rather than analyze the actual qualities. Hell, I fell into the same trap because I had seen the memes before I even bothered to read chapter 1. And when I did finally sit down to read it, I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised, like, okay, maybe this isn't as bad as people are making it out to be. So before we talk about where the story is going currently, let's break down just chapter 1. We're introduced to Chihiro, Kunishige, and Shiba. We are given the beginning of an explanation of what Kunishige does and why the swords are so important. We are also given a slight view into the life of Chihiro and his father, which further establishes Chihiro's revenge motive. And to further the revenge motive, we even get to briefly meet part of the Hishaku and witness a fraction of their magical ability. The final cherry on top is that we get some great action sequences and some goofy one-liners. Now, if I was given this experience without the memes, I think I would have been a lot more receptive to the content. Sure, I probably still would have drawn parallels to things like Demon Slayer, but that's okay because let's be real, homage and influence of other series will always affect artists. Mangaka consume media and transform their interests and inspirations to new work all the time, they just have the challenge of making sure they transform them enough to where it isn't just straight up plagiarism. And even the things we enjoy currently that might seem original to us, all have their humble beginnings by recycling other tales and concepts. Like, we're going to reach a point where almost every concept is told, it's just going to be about changing the delivery and the characters that make these journeys. Now, I'm not going to beat a dead horse over this because I'm sure you get what I'm saying. Simply put, everything is inspired by something. It's human nature at this point. Now, to bring this all together, if I was going off the concept that one chapter of a story would be enough to grab my attention, yes, Kagurabachi would pass that test. I think it had enough going on where I was interested in seeing where that world was going to go, and I did. I've been reading it every week. It got added into my little rotation. Tuesday is for Chainsaw Man if there's a new chapter, if we're lucky, and Sunday is Jujutsu Kaisen and Kagurabachi. I think it's hilarious that something that got clowned on so hard is now something I anticipate every week. It kind of comes down to the willingness of the reader to see the vision for a series, which I've come to realize a lot of readers do not have. Pretty much all media is consumed in binge formats these days, so I totally understand needing more than one chapter at a time to know if you really like something. But the mistake a lot of folks make is letting that level of impatience skew the view of if a series is truly good or not. And these critiques that come with this come in all kinds of forms, too much action, not enough action, too short, too much talking, why are we wasting time on these characters? And all of these I've seen more than enough. I've seen similar complaints about characters during some of the recent Jujutsu Kaisen chapters. Folks just bitching nonstop because Takaba vs. Kenjaku was pulling away from the main event too much. But I give a fuck because I thought it was actually a pretty fun fight. And I would see complaints about Chainsaw Man Part 2 in a similar way, being, it's either too slow or it's too much Asa, but I think folks that stuck it out would agree the buildup is definitely starting to pay off. So to bring this all together, in my opinion, yes, I do think the internet was a little quick to let one chapter mark a series as unworthy meme bait. Now it's time to move on to the second question. Is Kagurabachi actually good? Before y'all jump in and start cooking me, I do want to remind y'all that this is an entirely subjective question, so these are just my thoughts and feelings. If you love it, cool. If you hate it, cool. And if you don't really feel strongly about either side, thank you for giving me some time out of your day to listen to me talk about it. So in order to talk about whether or not Kagurabachi is actually good, I should probably do a little rundown for the people that might have jumped after chapter 1 about the events of chapters 2 through 13. So this really shouldn't need to be said, but we're about to get into very big spoiler territory for, a couple chapters. So let's begin. We got to see some of the flashback where the Hishaku kills Kunishige. We were introduced to Char, a little girl who comes from the Kiyonagi clan, a family with special genes that can regenerate and heal limbs. She asks Chihiro to protect her and becomes part of the cast. Chihiro fucks up this bozo that loves blowing shit up. A new villain enters the ring, Genichi Sojo. He's a super sadistic weapon dealer with a chokehold on the underground weapons trade. Sojo also puts a bounty out for Chihiro and Char. Chihiro continues to stand on business and fuck up no good unworthy slime. We are introduced to Azumi, a member of the Kamunabi, a group of sorcerers who work for the government. Azumi reveals that in 1 month, Sojo will be selling off some of Kunishige's enchanted blades at a black market event known as the Rakuza Ichi. Azumi explains that these blades being sold could be devastating to the nation, and that the Hishaku haven't done anything this crazy since they murdered Kunishige. Sojo is revealed to be in possession of one of Kunishige's enchanted blades, Cloud Gouger, one of the blades that Chihiro specifically tries to get information on around chapter 3. After a few bounty hunters have a failed attempt on Chihiro, Sojo gets pissed off and decides that he's gonna show up and fight Chihiro himself. He beats Chihiro's ass and captures Char. During the fight, we further establish that Sojo is a piece of shit when he mocks Kunishige's ideologies, stating that the blades were always meant to be weapons of mass destruction and only used for killing, which I'm sure is gonna go over well for him in the long run. When Chihiro wakes up after the ass whooping, Shiba reveals that Sojo has this material known as Datenseki. Datenseki is a very rare super toxic ore that was discovered during the war. Datenseki is important because it is the source of power for Kunishige's enchanted blades. We then learn that when used incorrectly, Datenseki can make the user basically explode, and that Kunishige was the only person capable of stabilizing the Datenseki. It is then revealed that Sojo plans on using Char's cells to experiment with Datenseki in hopes of creating a new weapon. Shortly after, a select group of Kamunabi members visit Chihiro in the hospital and form a plan to fight Sojo and rescue Char. And lastly, after healing a bit, Chihiro is figuring out how to break into the lab to save Char while the Kamunabi fight with Sojo on a giant rock above the city. And this completes the rundown of chapters 2 through 13, and 14 came out last weekend, but I'm not going to talk about it in the video, and 15 will probably be out after I get this video out, I hope. Now that I've gone over the current chapters, I feel like a lot more happened than I thought. For me, it's felt like the emphasis has been on the action, which isn't too shocking because that's kind of the tone set from chapter 1. But I feel like this is a pretty common thing with early setups in shonen stories. Main characters introduced, main goal introduced, fight a few flavor of the week villains that are kind of throwaway, and then we get our first arc introduced. By this mindset, I would say that Kagurabachi is effective in what it's trying to do, following the footsteps of the series that paved the way before it. The biggest thing that isn't really here for me yet is that, I don't feel like there's a character I truly give a shit about. Chihiro is fun and edgy, and I'm sure his revenge run is going to be cool, but I think I'm way more interested in the world around him and finding out more about the enchanted blades. Chihiro is still in his very early phase. He's a simple guy. Kill bad people, save good people, stop bad things from happening. And that isn't the worst thing though, because sometimes you just kind of want that cheesy action movie vibe, which Kagurabachi does extremely well. And yes, while I'm interested in the setup, I'm not going to lie about the fact that the action sequences have really been carrying it for me. And on top of that, the action sequences are drawn super well. We got big flashy panels for the sorcery and really solid action choreography. Like Mugi and I said in the first video, the art and action combo does not disappoint. I do, however, think a lot of the character designs are just okay. And Chihiro is the cleanest, which he should be since he is the protag, but Sojo has an equally great design. Sojo's got this frantic hair and heavy dark bags under his eyes that give the impression that this dude hasn't slept in about 10 years, and he spent all of that time consuming conspiracy theories. I'm hoping more of the villains are going to live up to this hype. The Kamunabi we met in the hospital all just kind of look sort of bland to me, which makes me think they're going to be throwaway characters. I do like the guy with the weird Pinocchio mask though. I hope he doesn't get dusted too soon. And with all of this in mind, if someone were to ask me if they should read Kagurabachi, At the moment, I think I would tell them yes. So yes, I do think Kagurabachi is good. It's definitely far from perfect, but the cheesy action flick vibe and gross villains will hopefully keep me coming back. And if it continues to be as strong in that department and sticks to that strong suit, I definitely could see this being something people will talk about in years. And I really hope it does last long enough to where we can be talking about it in years, you know, in a positive light. I'm sure I'm going to revisit Kagurabachi again in the future and make another video, but I think I want to let the story flesh out a little bit more before I do that. So, let me know in the comments what you think about Kagurabachi, or give me recommendations for things you would like me to check out. If you're new, please remember to subscribe and leave a like. As usual, I'd like to take a moment to thank my channel members. My content would not be possible without your support. This video's shout out goes to Zinfinity. Thank you for being a channel member for 30 months. That's fucking crazy, man. I can't believe that we've known each other for that long. And until next time, peace.